All right, let's jump in. We know a lot of you are trying to get your heads around semaglutide and weight loss. It's definitely a big topic.
It really is. And you've sent over some great material patient guides, thoughts on emotional eating, even a kind of manifesto. Quite a range.
Yeah, exactly. So our mission today is basically to sift through all that, pull out the key takeaways, and try to make sense of it all for you without it feeling like homework.
Good plan. We want to connect those dots, look at how semaglutide works, sure, but maybe more importantly, what else needs to happen for it to be, really successful?
Okay, so let's start with the basics. Semaglutide, maybe known as Ozempic, Wegovy, it's a GLP-1 receptor agonist. That's the class of drug.
Right. And it wasn't initially for weight loss, was it? It started with type 2 diabetes.
Correct. But the weight loss effect became pretty undeniable.
So how does it actually do that, the mechanism?
Well, the sources say it mimics a hormone we naturally produce, GLP-1.
Ah, okay. And that hormone's job is?
It's involved in appetite regulation. Big
Right.
time. So semaglutide helps you feel full, dials down the hunger signals.
And it also slows gastric emptying, right? So
No.
food stays with you longer.
Exactly. Which all leads to eating fewer calories, kind of naturally.
And we have solid proof this works.
Seems like it. The patient guide mentioned the STEP trials. They sound pretty significant.
Yeah, those studies showed people on semaglutide lost substantially more weight than those on placebo.
Even people without diabetes, which is interesting.
Right, and this is but that comes up everywhere. It was always with lifestyle changes, diet, exercise.
Yeah, that's crucial. It's not just the shot itself working in isolation. It's part of a bigger picture.
Definitely. And beyond just the pounds lost, the sources mention improvements in metabolic health too. Things like blood sugar, cholesterol.
Which is huge for overall health, obviously.
And one source even suggested it might be kind of more potent than other similar drugs, maybe because it lasts longer in the body.
Yeah, and affects appetite signals in the brain more directly, apparently. Plus, there was a mention of improving insulin sensitivity.
Which is a really positive benefit, potentially lowering risks down the line.
Okay, but let's be balanced. What about the downsides? Side effects?
Yeah, the sources are upfront about those. Nausea seems common, at least initially.
Diarrhea, constipation, too, are mentioned, though they often subside, the guide says.
Mm-hmm. And there are some rarer but more serious potential risks mentioned too, like pancreatitis.
And maybe retina issues for diabetics.
Yes, that's noted. Which really hammers home the point you absolutely need to discuss your specific risks with a doctor. This isn't something to take lightly.
Absolutely. And that ties into another major theme across all the materials. This isn't magic.
Not at all. It's a tool, a powerful one maybe, but it works best as part of a whole strategy.
Which always includes diet and exercise. Every source hits on this.
It makes sense, doesn't it? Diet gives you the right fuel, helps manage calories.
And semaglutide helps you stick to that calorie goal by managing hunger.
Right. And things like protein can even boost that fullness feeling semaglutide provides. It all works together.
And exercise. The patient guide went into that. Burning calories, metabolism.
Maintaining muscle mass, which is super important for your metabolic weight long term.
Plus, it might even help with some of those GI side effects we mentioned.
Possibly. The takeaway is really the synergy. The drug, the food, the movement together, they create a bigger calorie deficit than anyone alone. More sustainable, too.
Okay, let's shift gears a little. Dan Hollis's perspective from the podcast script and manifesto you shared brings in a whole different layer. The psychosocial stuff. Emotional hunger.
Yeah, that's fascinating. He frames emotional hunger not just as craving food, but as a deeper need, asking a question, wanting to be seen.
Right. It's not about physical starvation. It's about something else. Loneliness, anxiety, stress.
And he sees semaglutide as creating a sort of pause, a window.
A biological pause, I think he called it, because the intense food cravings quiet down.
It gives you the mental space to actually look at those underlying emotional drivers.
Exactly. He's clear it's not a fix for emotional eating itself.
No, more like it creates the silence that lets you find one. That's a powerful way to put it.
It really is. Quieting the food noise to hear what else is going on. He also mentioned identity disconnection.
Right, the idea that maybe eating becomes a substitute when we feel lost from ourselves.
That resonates. And instead of just willpower, he talks about alignment.
Which is about changing the underlying story, not just fighting the urge for the snack. It's deeper work.
Definitely deeper. And that kind of work often needs support, right?
Yeah.
Which is another thing the sources, like Chapter 12 and Hollis, really emphasize.
Absolutely. Support groups, communities online, offline, they offer emotional backup, practical tips.
Motivation. And just knowing you're not the only one going through it.
And the guide even points out the value of groups specifically for people on semaglutide, sharing those unique experiences, side effect tips.
Makes sense. But the guide also stresses finding reliable information, not just support. Checking sources, authors, dates.
Critical. And it's careful to say support groups don't replace your doctor.
Never. But Hollis puts the need for support so strongly. He said, most people don't fail because the medication doesn't work. They fail because they were alone.
Wow. He calls support neurobiological scaffolding, like it's structurally necessary.
Which leads right into the role of the healthcare provider. It's essential.
You can't get this without a prescription, for starters. And the provider does way more than just write the script.
They figure out the dose, teach you how to inject it, monitor progress,
help manage side effects, offer psychological support, guide those lifestyle changes we talked about. It's ongoing supervision.
So thinking long term, Chapter 13 and Hollis both say, again, this isn't a quick fix.
Nope. Requires commitment. And the patient guide mentions we still need more research, right? Long-term effects, best practices.
Yeah, optimal dosing, combination therapies, lots still to learn.
And education is key. For doctors, patients, the public, getting the real story out there, clearing up myths.
Regulation, too, ensuring quality and safety.
And Hollis really focuses on what comes next, after the medication starts working.
Building habits that last beyond the injections. Addressing the narrative after the numbers. I like that.
Me too. He says the real work begins after the medication. Emotional recalibration, new routines.
It comes back to his idea. Weight loss is biology. Staying there is narrative. You have to rewrite your story.
Powerful concept. And finally, he talks about failure or setbacks, reframing them.
Yeah, not seeing it as weakness, but as data, feedback.
Exactly. Relapse isn't betrayal. It's the brain defaulting to old paths. Breakdowns show where support needs strengthening.
So approach setbacks with curiosity, not judgment. Build grace by finding better tools, not blaming yourself.
Such a healthier perspective.
So wrapping this up, it feels like the clear message from all these different angles is that semaglutide can be a really valuable tool.
But only as one piece of a much larger puzzle. Diet, exercise, psychological support, dealing with emotional stuff, it all has to be there.
It's a holistic approach that seems to yield the best results.
Absolutely. And the non-negotiable first step, repeated everywhere, is talking to your healthcare provider, getting personalized advice.
Definitely. So maybe the thought to leave everyone with, drawing from Hollis again, is this. Now that you understand more about the science and the support needed, consider his question, what am I actually hungry for? Beyond the physical. Recognizing weight loss might start with biology, but staying there, that's the narrative you write. What story will that be for you?